Hello and welcome to Shared Space. I am Laquita Chansey, the founder and director of Baltimore Homes. And we have Chapo with us, my brother from another mother. Hey, Chapo, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Chaplain Lovelace. I'm a full-time volunteer chaplain for Baltimore City through the police department. I wear a bunch of other hats. I help a bunch of other organizations. But yeah, I just plug in all the tribes doing stuff in Baltimore with my main sister Quida because she is doing the most. You can't tell me no different. Um, so yeah, what's going on? What's going on with you before we bring in our awesome guests? What do we got going on?
Yeah, so we were at the lake per usual, but we won't be at the lake this Sunday. So almost every Sunday except for Mother's Day, Father's Day, and depending on when like Thanksgiving and well, guess it wouldn't ever be Thanksgiving, but Christmas may fall. But either way, Lake Montebello
Lake Montebello.
near Lake Montebello near Morgan State University, 9 a.m. We do Walk with the Doc, a community wellness walk, and we bring out a physician of some sort, and we talk about mental health and wellness. And it's really just an opportunity for the community to have access to a physician of sorts, nutritionist. We bring out breakfast, some light fruits and vegetables, those kinds of things. Walk around the lake and do some community building. Hey, Yolanda Pulley, the Pulley the Bully, right? Hey, Yolanda.
Hey, don't do that. But yes.
Right. So we need to get Yolanda out there to chit chat with us. But yeah, so
Yes, we do.
Lake Montebello, and then tell me about the parade, Chapo.
Yeah. So real quick, because we're going to do some shows on that on other shows on the network as well. So Saturday we I say we, but retired officer Charles Lee and Officer Evan Anderson organized the historic Pennsylvania Avenue Parade for like the sixth or seventh year in a row. Rain or shine, it called for rain, but the Lord cleared the skies for us. We only had one band show up, and we're all on BP time. But so we started a little late with that one band. Next thing you know, we had six marching bands marching down the avenue till like 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Wow.
And the avenue getting a bad rep. If you were down there, man, you wouldn't recognize it from what the media shows you. It was all smiles, all love. Even the bands were cheering each other on, loving on each other, man. It was a really fantastic time. We'll get some footage posted of that. And to that point, not to, I don't know if I don't know if it's top secret or not, but we plan on doing a part two and bringing that Pensy Ave love to the city on a different venue in August. So look for that. Look for the parade. We're going to have a little more grand showing and review stand and everything to celebrate the bands who did show up. Much love to all of them. I could name them all, but we'll do that on another show. We'll get the bands on here talking about it because it was phenomenal. I can't say enough. You had to be there. Even just watching the footage, you had to be there. You couldn't walk down. You couldn't walk between North Avenue and Dolphin Street without a little pep in your step. You know what I mean?
Right.
And the babies were showing out. Babies were picking up sticks and banging on anything that looked like a drum. It was amazing.
I love
Um,
how the life and art imitate one another. We always say that art
yes,
imitates life,
yes.
but still the baby seeing the artists, the drummers and wanting to emulate that. I think that's dope too.
Yolanda, I have not even slowed down to get a haircut. This is not on purpose. but but at this point, I might as well get past the mullet and grow it out. So this evening, very interesting story. We move through the city a lot. We work with a lot of different groups. Shout out to Chu Smith, Arise Baltimore, building the community over West. And his efforts are very organized and very purposeful. And I praise him for that. His children are all in taking the lead. And he's empowering them to do so. Former Harlem Globetrotter, if you don't know. Um, that's just this shirt alone. And there's tons of stories like this going on in Baltimore. So a young lady reached out to me. She said so she's clearing her messages, and she's like, "Whose number is this? Who are you?" I'm clearing my messages out, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm Chap. Who are you?" Right? We started talking, and we figured out, where we had met, what community event or whatever. We exchanged numbers a while back, and hadn't really connected, which is fine. Like we meet people, and then they're in our lives for a season or for a lifetime, and you figure that out as you go, and it's all love. And so the young lady, Miss Allison Ashley, she reached out and shared some of the things she's been doing, and so I'll allow them to introduce herself and tell you. But they've got some collaboration going on in the community that we definitely want to be a part of. Quida and our other community chiefs who are watching, guys, this is a chance to really collaborate and plug in on a non-political agenda. Just loving on Baltimore's people. So, without further ado, our guests, if you guys will please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Allison Ashley.
How's it going? My name is Kylan Kincaid.
Yeah, and we are working with a kind of project that's called the Hive Mind. And like Chap said, it was kind of super random that like we got into contact with one another, and it was just literally I was like clearing out everything, being like, who do I know? Who do I not know? And it was one of the numbers that I had not fully saved. And you just see like it says like Chaplain, Chap, David Lovelace, and I was like, who the heck is that? So I think that was like probably a few weeks ago, like a month or so ago. Yeah. And found some commonalities, found like that there's a potential like cross kind of like collaboration, which is what Kylan and I love finding. Because that's a huge part of what we do is trying to find these intersections of vision and of potential collaborations with people. And we have an event coming up actually on the 29th of June that is specifically about kind of collaboration and connection with people in Baltimore, specifically focused on Baltimore youth right now.
Yeah.
So where is the event? What is the title? What's the overall premise of what you all are trying to accomplish?
So I can give you a little bit of background just so it kind of makes sense in the context of what we're talking about. Allie and I have both been in missions work for quite some time now, collectively about, 14 years, something like that. But through an organization called Youth with a Mission. So it's a Christian missionary organization. But during my time there, I'd love to ask people what it was that they like to do. I just was always super fascinated of like the dreams that people had and like how they were attempting to pursue it. And so, I would ask somebody and they'd like, oh, I want to open a coffee shop and I want to do this thing for the homeless community, in this area. And then within the week, I would hear maybe 3 or 4 people say they wanted to do the same thing. And I'm thinking, man, like, why is nobody like working together? If this is, how can we come together, and sort of put the pride to the side, because a lot of the times people just want to say that they, made it work. They like put all the hard work in and they did it themselves and they can feel good about themselves. But I think there's something so much more beneficial when we're able to kind of realize that we really do need each other and figure out a way for us to work with each other. And it's definitely not easy. Collaboration is a hard thing, I've come to find out. And so, one of the things we want to try to figure out how to do is steward that collaboration. We want to try to facilitate an opportunity for people to network, get connected with each other, and see what amazing things can come out of that. And so, we were just kind of thinking around to all of our friends here in Baltimore and thinking, what are some things that people are working on? And we have a lot of friends that are doing stuff for, just the youth around the city. And we're thinking, wow, maybe that could be an intersection that we can explore. And so the event is going to be at St. Mo's Church on 33rd.
Yeah, 33rd.
33rd Street in Waverly area. And so they were just kind enough to host that event for us.
And it's welcome to everyone.
It's welcome to everyone.
It's welcome to anyone who really cares about Baltimore youth. We have 2 friends who are actually like hosting camps this summer that we've invited to kind of share a bit more about what they're doing. One is doing like kind of this like camp that has some like arts focus or different workshops for like the youth in the neighborhood of Waverly. And then there's another one that's happening in August that is a skate camp that is run by this awesome girl who's kind of doing her own social enterprise called the Pack House. And they're doing a few-day skate camp for Baltimore youth. And her focus specifically is on foster care kids within Baltimore.
A lot of kids in the Brooklyn area too.
Yeah. And so we wanted to kind of have a space so that the event is called Hive Night. And we wanted to have just this kind of time where we kind of highlighted a few people to share a bit about their vision and the thing that they're working on right now. But we also wanted to have a space where people can come and network with one another. So if anyone's working within Baltimore youth or has a heart for that, they're totally welcome to come. And we're actually having some time specific for people to network, to have conversations, deeper conversations about how to like kind of invest in that area, or like what's actually happening within Baltimore in those areas. Because that was the other part, was we also realized like we kind of had this little conversation just in the back room a little bit, where it's like Baltimore's kind of this like small town place where it's like, if you don't know what's going on. And there's people who are doing stuff, and
Right.
and they have potential resources or team members, or maybe they're doing some of the same stuff, that they could potentially share that together and work together as opposed to by themselves.
Right. And in collaboration, you know, it doesn't have to just look like immediate direct partnership. You know, there's so many ways that I've come to find out collaboration could take place. You know, it could be through like mentorship, it could be through obviously financial donations, but it could be a lot of different avenues to go towards collaboration. And so, I don't know, we're kind of just excited to explore some of those things. This is actually the first event we've been able to host. And so, yeah, we're kind of just excited to see. We don't really have an expectation of any of the collaborations that might come out of it. We just really want to facilitate the space and just open up the conversation and dive into the challenges that might keep people from collaborating, and figure out how to, you know, alleviate some of those things.
Kind of hurdles.
Yeah.
Well, I will tell you, let me comment, because I've been holding it back, is that way back in the beginning of this conversation, when you said, you know, when you're talking about collaborating and how we all do our little things in pockets by ourselves, like, it's exhausting. I don't want to do that, right? Like we have this whole mantra, like life is a team sport, right? Like we do these things, but like I don't think anybody really wants to do that. There's some glory hounds out here, but for the most of us, we're like looking around like, man, who can help me out? So this is a great asset to look beside us and left and right, and see who else is in, you know, who else is all in for the work we're doing. So I think it's a great opportunity. I look forward to it. I posted a link in the comments. I think I messed it up. I'll repost it, but it's scrolling across the bottom here. So if you guys want more information on Hive Night, this is the event site at the bottom there. Quida, what do you think?
No, so what I wanted to say was, I mean, quite frankly, if you're doing community work and you're like a siloed organization, you're probably doing that community work incorrectly. Like you're excluding someone, you're not remembering to include someone. And, you know, unless you're intentionally like, you know what, we're going to get someone that is representative of every orientation, of every nationality, of every economic background, of every socioeconomic, like that just doesn't exist. So you need to make sure that you have as many people at the table to collaborate. And I also tell a bunch of volunteers, like everyone's like, well, why did you start Smaltimore? And it's like, well, because I didn't see anyone who was already doing it. Because if someone else was already doing it, then I should just hop on their bandwagon and just be a volunteer and be a part, the cog that's missing, not recreate the wheel. You know what I mean? And so I think having that mentality from the beginning and recognizing that absolutely this is a shared space. That's why we call it shared space. But there's enough limelight for everybody. There's enough stage for everybody. And quite frankly, the Hive isn't going to do what Power Fest is going to do, isn't what Smaltimore Homes is going to do. But if we come together, like form like Voltron, you know.
Exactly.
We fill in the gaps. We fill in the gaps for each other.
Yes. And then that gap as needed. And to your point, Chap, you also got excited when they mentioned foster youth. Like that's a part. I saw
that's you. The whole conversation. Aged out, especially aged out kids. We had this conversation last week.
Those are people. Like we have to recognize that so many people, a part of society, like are just marginalized, you know, and forgotten about. So we were having a conversation recently about how foster youth sometimes aren't prepared for life,
Yeah.
but at the same time, they still age out and they age out as adults. And then we have no sympathy, empathy, or patience for these adults of things that we thought they should have learned. But who are we to
Mhm.
say what their life
Mhm.
experience was and what they've learned? So we
Right.
have all
Yeah.
these biases. So I think this is dope. So Chap had the information scrolling. So are you all still looking for partners or donations? Like how can the people who are tuned in help
Mhm.
with this next event or help to support you all?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, a huge part of like stuff right now is like we're definitely, the event is free and it's up for donation if people want to donate, because we wanted to make it accessible to anyone. But we obviously, Kylan and I actually like use our own money to fund what we're doing. So, so
Understand
with,
that?
with so with that, which is like, any person who's doing small business or small community work, you're usually kind of funneling your own assets into what you're doing.
Yeah.
Um, and so we definitely like are right now currently accepting donations for like the event, and for future events, because we want to continue doing it. Um, and also we're like trying to actually eventually develop a website that will be for people to like kind of cross collaborate. And one of the things that we've talked about eventually with what we want the hive mind to do is to provide internships or like kind of like mentorships for people who have not had those opportunities, who like don't have those skill sets, because there is sometimes that lack, right, of being like, how do we, and the thing is like uh, I was reading like this study that was talking about just in general with millennials, how like millennials in general like are learning how to basically become adults within the workforce. And so there's like somewhat of a lack of like adulting that's like
Yeah.
happening. So then by the time they're in the workforce in general, they or the workforce has to basically parent them to basically become
Hmm,
adults.
that's insightful.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so then you have that plus aspects of like people who like you guys are talking about who are aging out of foster care. And so we're kind of left with a whole nother demographic of like how the world functions that I don't know if we're necessarily prepared for. So we've been talking about mentorships would be awesome.
Mhm.
Right.
And um, so
Right.
we're trying to
So
develop a
so with
website
that,
for that.
like, I mean, even people that are willing to be mentors.
Yeah.
Just before like people just send their money, we'd love to see their faces
Yeah.
first,
Yeah.
and network with people and just like hear their stories, hear about how they want to help the community. And I love the term. I feel like I keep hearing Chap say people about finding their tribe.
Yeah.
We really want to get people plugged in with their tribe. I know, like, for myself, I grew up, not the best conditions. I feel like I was always kind of alone, isolated, trying to do things on my own. And I just, never really had my people around me. I never had the community of people that were really trying to do the same things as I was. And um,
It's
it gets
exhausting.
discouraging.
Yeah.
It gets discouraging. So
Yeah.
we want to get people plugged in with
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
tribe.
Yeah. I think to your point, I find I've been in I guess I can say industries that are usually dominated by people that look like me, right? So I started off with a computer science degree and now I'm in real estate and build micro shelters. Like usually it's a guy's world, right?
Yeah.
So it's that idea of let me find my space and let me, feel comfortable, but is that always possible? So
Yeah.
recognizing that some folks need to hear, hey, this is a safe space. We may not look alike. We may not have the
Yeah.
same experiences, but what you have to say is important.
Mm-hmm.
Because not everyone is okay with being like, hey, you need to listen to me because my experience is valuable and I'm enough. Like,
Yeah.
not everyone hears that enough. So, talking to youth and people who feel like they don't have a skill set. It's like, well, your testimony is a skill set. Like, start talking about your life experiences.
Mhm.
Someone is going to connect with that.
Yep.
And we have to be careful about trauma bonding, but still it's good to know that you're not alone, right? And
Right.
like
Yeah.
building upon that and building
Hmm.
healthy relationships. So
Yeah. And,
I love all of that.
and really another part of it is too, just that, um, I do have friends that say man, I want to help with, you know, um, if it's anti-human trafficking or if it's, our homeless friends on the streets. Like I hear
Yeah.
people say these things all the time. And
Yeah.
so um, I just, they're like, but I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to go about doing it. And so another like thing that fuels the passion for me is just trying to eliminate excuses for people. You know, finding a way to be like, oh, well, if this is what you want to do, like, here's how you do it. And this is the place you go. And these are the people you talk to.
Right.
And so, like, there's no excuses really. So I do want to try to eliminate those also.
Yeah. So to your point, like me and my Voltrina tribe,
Yeah.
Voltrina, the collective, because it's a group of women. I already said Voltron, but Voltrina, because we're a group of
I
women,
got Voltron on my side.
we're a little gender specific every now and again. But either way, we're at the lake every Sunday at 9, unless it's like Mother's Day or Father's Day. But people love to say, "Oh, I wish you would have told me sooner." And it's like, yeah, so not this Sunday, but I'll be there next Sunday, and
Yeah.
I'll be there the Sunday after, and I'll
Yeah.
be there the Sunday after. Like, don't give me an excuse for why you can't make it. Like, just show
Yeah.
up, because I'm gonna be there, right? So,
And let me comment on that, Quida, because that's so important. So like, I'm real good at, if you give me a goal or a target, I'm gonna run it down till we get the results that I want. I'm not going to take no, but at the same time, I can be inconsistent in my energy. Right, that's just my nature's a little chaotic. So there's so much value in the consistency, right? And we call it continuity of care. And so like, I just want to commend Voltrina, because no matter what's going on, I know, just like church, no matter what's going on, every Sunday morning, I know if I slide through the lake at 9 a.m., they're going to be there. And that is so valuable. That is so valuable. They don't know if I'm coming or not. They never know what I'm doing, but they're always there. And something simple as that, like even if they're not doing anything extravagant, just being consistent is
Yeah.
great value in serving our community.
but also, Chap, like, you don't have to be there every weekend. Like, you get grace. Like, life happens, right? So even if I can't make it, Khadijah, Tia, Nicola, Perry, they're going to be there. Or vice versa. If Nicola can't make it, we're going to be there. So there's
And
always,
that's the tribe, right? That's the hive. That's the tribe. It's like,
and also recognizing we don't have to do it alone.
yes. True.
Like, it's 6 of us.
I think when it like starts to become dependent upon you, like when it's like, oh, it's dependent upon one person to make sure that's happening, then like we're missing something.
Absolutely.
Because it like should be built upon the fact that there's a community that's coming together that is like holding it together. So it's like, if that's happening, like you're saying, then it's like, oh, I have something that's happening this week. I have to go do that. Where it's like, okay, like I know this is being carried by the conglomerate of people that like love this and care about this, and it's going to be okay.
Right.
But when we start to make stuff depend on us, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And
So
giving yourself grace. Also, like we all, like, life happens. Life is hard, bro. Like, we need to make sure that we kick back and do our self-care, even though showing up at the lake, like for me, I wake up crazy early. So being there at 9 o'clock isn't really that hard. I'm just late for everything, regardless of how life works. Right. So for me, it's not stressful. I'm not like waking up, chaotic or anxious. And so I just show up there. So for me, like, that's kind of therapeutic. Like, I get to move my body. I get to see people that I know and love, and then meet new people. So yeah. So one Sunday, Hive, we need to see you guys up there.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
We live near Lake Montebello.
There you go.
I know.
Look,
I saw that you two looked at each
excuses.
other when I mentioned
Waverly
it.
area,
I said, I feel like you're in that Bel Air, Edison, Morgan area.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you guys mentioned collaboratively you had about 14 years of mission work. So you guys want to unpack that a little bit?
Yeah, I actually, I'm 28 years old, and 10 years ago, I actually moved to Germany, Berlin, Germany for a year, and did a arts program, like kind of like how I describe it is kind of like humanitarian work mixed with creativity. So we did a lot of kind of stuff within kind of workshops for like youth within Berlin. We also put on a program that we traveled throughout Europe.
Sprechen Sie
And,
Deutsch?
huh?
Sprechen Sie Deutsch?
Ja, sprechen Sie ein bisschen Deutsch.
All right, all right.
And then that was in 2012. And so I'm coming up to like 10 years of that experience. And then I actually moved, I'm originally from Colorado, and I moved back to Colorado for 2 years. And then I actually ended up moving back overseas to Norway for 4 years to work on another like arts program that they did. And that was also about, each program was a year almost. And my last 2 years there, I helped kind of pioneer a arts residency program with a group in Barcelona, Norway, and Baltimore, which is actually part of like, yeah, connections I have here.
So let me pause you on that. I'm gonna ask you a hard question. Don't take it wrong. So
Yeah.
those areas you mentioned that you served
Yeah.
have a significantly different demographic than
Yeah.
the Baltimore community. So what brought you here? How'd you make the connection? Why are you in Baltimore?
Yeah. So in 2018, I came to Baltimore for the first time with that art residency program. And at that time, I was contemplating, I knew that like my visa was going to, like the visa I had was going to expire after 4 years. And I couldn't basically, if I wanted to stay in Norway, I'd have to do like a student visa or something else. And so I kind of was also feeling this tug back to the States because of it was kind of like the rise also at that point of like all of this, like, I mean, the thing is like the issues that have been happening in the States have been happening for a long time. That's not new, but it was hitting this part, being someone who actually like lived overseas while a lot of stuff was like transpiring, and watching as an outside perspective, being like, what is happening in my country? Brought a lot of like concerns, and being like, okay, like I feel like I need to go back. And so originally, yeah, like when I came to Baltimore, the stuff that I actually like loved about Baltimore was that it is so rich in history and in culture.
Hell yeah.
And and like and honestly, like there was a huge part of me when I came back to the States where I was like, I basically need to act like I don't live here. I did not grow up here, live in the States at all, and act like I don't know anything. And so coming back to America has been like a huge like cultural shift in general, of relearning. And America has changed a lot from the times that I've like left, changed a lot in the sense that like just so much started happening very fast. But it was really, again, like stuff that's like, this was already happening. It's just that some communities were starting to become aware of it. And so coming back to the States was kind of like, I just wanted to basically be a student of understanding what was kind of the things that I noticed was happening for a long time that I needed to understand better. And a huge aspect of coming to Baltimore was, yeah, we were like actually invited by some friends to kind of who like had the same vision and same heart as like what the stuff that we were doing and planning on working on. But like Baltimore was kind of this place where I was like, so much of what is happening in America, like this place is where you can see it first, and you can see.
We say that all the time.
Yeah,
we do.
And so it's like kind of being pulled into a place of like really being a student again, like I was saying, where it's like I want to put myself into a submitted place of understanding, as opposed to like thinking I know what's best. And especially with wanting to do the work that Kylie and I have talked about, it's like if I want to do collaborative work, I need to understand what like different demographics of people deal with. And also how to, like, I'm a white woman, how to not kind of enter into a space with that kind of you know, I don't know how to say the word, but like yeah, like kind of like
with
That's a
your
great,
privilege.
that's
yeah,
a that's
yeah,
a
privilege. Like, what's
that's
the
like
word?
a very that's a very great answer and a very insightful answer from a 28-year-old. So like I'm impressed with that and appreciate that. Um,
It's
while
been a
you're speaking,
construction of years.
yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
And so like while I'm receiving that, and I already know where you're going with that, and I'm appreciating that at the same time. The other side of my brain's like, can you teach my kids the path to travel to Norway and Germany? Like you've done it. Like can you
I
show our
can.
kids how to do that? Right? Like get them out of Baltimore, get them a broader perspective so they can come
Yeah.
back and pass that torch on to their peers and their kids. Like that's just this whole nother conversation on the other side of my brain is like you've done it, and
Yeah.
so like that is something significant that you can offer to as you build these relationships and you build the mentorship. You'll find people that want to get out of Baltimore, especially these young people, right? Or they never thought that that was even ever an option, and
Hmm.
that's something that you can offer and you do bring into the space beyond your heart, and your while you're collaborating with people, like keep that in your toolkit. Is like, you guys ever thought about going to Germany? And they'd be like, what? No. What are you talking about? Because that's so far beyond our capacity as youth in Baltimore. If somebody told me that, I'd be like, I'd have no idea how to answer that or even like comprehend that. But to have someone in front of me who's like, yeah, I did it. You can do it. That's huge. That is
Hmm.
huge because then it sets people's sights. It recalibrates people's sights for bigger things. So I think that's
Right,
an important part of
right.
your testimony. Yeah, absolutely.
But also, Chap, I think we can't ignore just like the experience of living and seeing something beyond what you grew up around.
Yeah.
Because if you grow up in Baltimore, you start to think that vacancy and blight and all of this stuff is normal. But then you go to other places and then you're like, oh, wait, where I live, that's not normal. This looks very different than what I'm used to. And why is that? So you spark a curiosity.
Mm.
You either want to fix it, you want to leave, whatever it is, like just insight, some sort of inspiration, right? So traveling, I'm a travel bug. I'm on my third passport. Like that's what
Nice.
I
Wow.
do. My father was a Vietnam vet. My mother's father worked for TSA when she was in school. So, looking at their pictures as children, I'm like, oh, I want to go to that place. I want to go to that place.
Hmm.
And that's just something that a lot of kids that I speak to, they don't know like the names of multiple cities. Like by the second grade, I knew all the states because I was going to all the states. But do you know what I mean? That's
And
not
Yeah.
common. And so
Yes.
for me, I'm like, we need to find whatever that is, whether it's your travel bug, your
Yeah.
building bug, your math bug, reading, literacy, whatever. Just find that spark, and figure out how to pull it out of folks, whether
Yeah.
it's art. Like that's a beautiful way for people to start building and bonding. You don't need to know how to speak the same language to enjoy art together. You know what I mean? Like, so there's just those little things. So I love
Yeah.
all of this. And Chap, I love the idea of teaching the kids, like, well, this is how I secured these fellowships or cohorts and had this experience. Is this something you'd be interested in as well? Because it's quite possible, which is
Mm.
crazy, right? So remind us again, when is the event?
It is June 29th at 7 p.m. at St. Mo's Church.
St. Mo's Church. What part of town is that? Is
It's
that
in
still by
Waverly.
Morgan?
It's
Oh,
like
oh,
right
you
next
did
to,
say
it's right
Fredericksburg.
behind, on Saturdays, there's like a farmer's market in Waverly, and it's
Yeah,
right behind one of the
that
buildings.
parking lot.
it says
That looks great.
400 East 31st Street is the
That's
address.
correct. Mhm.
400 East
It's one of
31st.
those things where you're like, I know I added it in the thing. Do I remember it all? No.
I never remember it all. Or my like fake dyslexia switches around the numbers. And I'm like, don't quote me on that. But I
Yeah.
feel like,
Yes.
okay, so that's really cool. And so, like you said, donations are dope, but building relationships with partners who are interested
Yeah.
in mentoring, sharing their skill set,
So,
willing to spark the interest of folks. Go ahead, Chap.
so I have a question. Like, do you guys already have other youth-oriented organizations you collaborate with currently?
Well, so
Like, good.
not currently.
Okay.
And so I don't know. We kind of just were trying to be thoughtful. Like I said, we really just wanted to facilitate an opportunity for collaboration, and then we thought, well, what better way to do that?
Yeah.
Because right,
we need a focus, right? So then youth came, but eventually we want to branch out from other things from that, but we want to figure out how to create some consistency and like long-term sustainability. So the idea is that once we like facilitate this and get this community of people that are passionate together, that this can be something that just continues, regardless if we're able to be there to facilitate it every time or not. And so we really want to create like these focus groups that have different influences around the town. But yeah, and the thing I was going to say too is that we've been serving here in Baltimore for on and off more than the last year.
Yeah, because Kylan's been here. He actually came here like years ago doing an arts program and got connected with the same people I did.
Right.
A few years later.
Right. So outside of the Hive, we've been we started this. It's like a drop-in center for some of our homeless friends off like St. Paul's and North Avenue. It's called Bloom. It's like a drop-in center. Guys can come in there, get like a warm meal. I'll make them like some biscuits or and then they can get their clothes washed and just sit down and talk with somebody. Have a time to just sit down and we even do ID procurement. So
what's it called?
Bloom.
It's called Bloom. Yeah. But it actually changed.
Yeah. So we started thinking and we're like, man, where are the foster kids at? Because we know that there's a large percentage of the people on the streets that are aging out of foster care, and we didn't really see any. There's a lot of older guys, and that's great, but we were able to figure out how to get this bus. So the organization we currently are staffing with YWAM Baltimore, and so we live off support right now. We don't really have jobs or anything like that, but so we.
Oh, it's a job. What you're doing is a job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's a lifestyle, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So we're able to get a bus. So we're going to take this as YWAM Baltimore, this Bloom operation mobile, so we can go into areas like Brooklyn. And so we're partnering with Helping Up Mission. It's a big facility down.
We're familiar.
Baltimore Street.
Yeah.
Downtown. Yeah.
Like Rollo, Pastor Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of like different organizations around town that we're partnered with, and we have good relationships with organizations in Brooklyn with like the Well. They employ women that are coming out of survivors of human trafficking and.
So you guys talk about the human trafficking and the homeless stuff. So are you? First of all, I want to get Quida in on designing that bus for you, man, because she's the plan. She's the man with the plan.
Yeah.
You guys familiar with Monique Smith?
No.
The older, well, I ain't gonna put her out there like that. I'm sorry, Monique. She is a very well-known missing persons who is in Baltimore, and she is probably the most highlighted and most prominent advocate for human trafficking, both nationally, but she lives here in Baltimore. She works over on 23rd and Howard. So in that, with your partnership with the Well and in that service, I'd love to connect with you guys. I think for the youth stuff, and again for the homeless stuff, Quida has a lot of good relationships in that community. With, I got a new phone, so I lost Christina Flowers' number, but I'll try. We'll try to get you guys connected with them as well. There's a lot of good people that are in the community serving that.
Right. Are you guys familiar with the Franciscan Center? It's right there, I think, on 23rd in Maryland or something.
I know what you're talking about. I don't think we've talked.
Yeah, and there's Urban Hunger Project. They're working out of the Catholic Charities as well.
Yeah.
So on Thursday, the Franciscan Center goes to Coty, which is the largest encampment here in like the greater Baltimore area.
Yeah.
It's about 16 acres, I think they said. So they go there every Thursday. I went there last week with them. Not sure what your Thursdays look like, but so that's one opportunity I can connect
Okay.
you with them.
Yeah.
And then Friday, the same organization, the Franciscan Center, they do a annual Father's Day event. So we'll be out there, doing attire for hire, dressing people to get ready for interviews, haircuts,
Awesome.
That's cool.
feeding them, all that kind of stuff. So that'll
That's
be our second year joining in on that. And I
Yeah.
think last year is when we bought the mobile shower and stuff. So
Organization of Hope, Dr. Patricia Williams. Yep.
yes,
I've seen it around town.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just took them a while. They've got a great resource, but the politics in the city, they just signed a contract with them last year, 2021, I think. So yeah, they
it's so
same thing
hard
like
to
you're
help
talking about.
people. It's so
Huh?
frustrating. I said it's
Yeah,
so
yeah,
frustrating. It's so hard to help people. Like how?
in
Why?
the city. Yeah. But then
Why?
back to the youth focus though for your
Yeah.
event. So I'm thinking like, if you guys heard of Level Up, look up at Level Up on Instagram. Dayson is a young man who I had the privilege of mentoring him for a season, um, and he's now I think at 19 years old. He was a published author. 20 years old. He had a 501c for mentorship, and he has like around 30 kids. Last I checked in on him in his program. 22 are mentees, and the other like 10, 8 or 10 are mentor apprentices. So he mentors the apprentices and teaches them how to mentor the kids.
Wow.
And he's like one of, well, he's a diamond in the rough, but he's one person who focuses and intentionally on youth and mentorship. So definitely, you want him at the Hive, sharing
Yeah.
his work and showing you what the work looks like as it suits Baltimore City.
Hmm.
And I understand that you guys have already shared, like, to my satisfaction, that you understand that when you're coming into a space, you want to learn how to engage that space. Um, and there's value in that. We have people that don't understand that. We had a rough interview on one of our first shows where I brought a guy in who I also will invite to your Hive. John Rusnick runs Uncuffed, and he goes behind the closed doors at juvenile detention centers and reaches youth that way, kind of like Youth for Christ used to do. But I won't say anything publicly against them, except that it was frustrating working for them. It seemed very corporate. But John had like some really good ideas that he didn't think through the process of asking the community necessarily, what do you want, or is this a good fit for you. He came with some great ideas that weren't a great fit, and it took the conversation with Miss Chansey right there to point that out to him. Like,
Hmm.
who asked for that? Like, did you survey the community? Like, what was the idea? And his idea was, well, we're providing food access, and we're providing jobs, and we're intentionally hiring ex offenders. All these great principles behind the
Yeah.
work, but there is value in getting the community's blessing and
Yes.
empowering the people in the community to take the lead on your, like, you got to be willing to give it up to the people in the
Yeah.
community. Like, if I go into Pensy Ave and do the parade, people saw this crazy white boy walking up Pensy Ave with way too much confidence, but my name wasn't on nothing. Um, and as well as the two other guys that organized, and everybody knows them, but our name wasn't on nothing. We gave it up to the people in the community. We gave it up to them to take the lead. Like, here's the vision. We're going to do it for you. Like, what's it look like? Who are we inviting? Who are we calling? Who are we not calling?
Yeah.
Why, somebody was like, man, the mayor should be here. And we're like, no, he shouldn't. Everybody's smiling, having a good time right now. Right. Like, stuff like, but like, seriously, like, you got to know
Yeah.
your culture and your community. So I'm really encouraged
Yeah.
that at such I won't say a young age, but because just not to discredit you guys, but the maturity, the spiritual maturity of, and probably through your experience of serving communities that are different from ones you grew up in, that's valuable, and that's going to really pave a longevity, no matter where you serve, as you engage in relationships. I'll share, like, the picture behind me is a picture of 600 Glover Street. A couple weekends ago, I was at a block party, and one of the boys was we had a police there on the corner making sure things were safe, allegedly. Um, and one of the boys was popping wheelies on his four-wheeler past the cops and showing out, and then his four-wheeler broke down in front of them, and I'm laughing like, that's what you get. But then one of the young officers, instead of going over making sure he's okay or helping him fix his bike, not to say that he had a capacity to think like that, but he knew that he was doing something illegal, and he was looking for permission from his sergeant to chase the kid down, impound the four-wheeler, which he got permission to do. So in front of this whole block party, an officer impounded the car while taking selfies for Instagram. Mm-hmm. And so I share that with you to say that he's a brand new officer. He's got another 20, 25 years to retirement. And that's the context of how the community is going to see him the next 20 years. Right. And so it's so important to think a couple moves ahead of what you're doing. Right. Like I gave all the young guys homework when I was out there, all the young cops. I'm like, y'all need to go home and watch this movie called Colors. And if you ain't seen it, go ahead and watch it. But it speaks to that. It speaks to when you come into a community, you give them space and you learn to build relationships and build trust. And it's not always about the letter of the law. So, and you guys, I'm sure you guys are students of the Bible, understand the difference between the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. As you read into the New Testament, Old Testament has a bunch of laws, but when you read into the New Testament, the only law is love, right? Like love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the greatest commandment. So
I love that, Chap. I love that. And it kind of brings it back. Like, it's understanding that we're all different. We all have different experiences, but when we come together, like, something dope can really happen. Like, we can really incite change and influence, something for the greater good. So I think Baltimore deserves that. So
100%. Yeah.
I appreciate that you all have these worldly experiences that you're going to bring back and like share with folks. And even if that's not like a part of the mission, like it's going to come out anyway, because that's a part of you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think I look forward to like hearing how this all blossoms. One more organization I thought about, Dent Education. I'm working with them this summer, and they have a volunteer opportunity this Thursday. So that's Dent, DENT Education. You can probably find out more information on Instagram. But they're really great about engaging youth and creating social impact opportunities. So if nothing else, like you can steal their partners from their Instagram feed and see who they're engaging with, right? Like just see who's out in the community and what other, things are going on with the youth. Yeah.
And Danielle Pinder comes to mind too. Danielle's got she's got a successful, consistent youth entrepreneurship program that she's been running in Northwest. So Miss Pinder, we're going to be calling you, Danielle, connecting you with these guys. Youth minded. I'll check through my contacts, because in 2019, before COVID, we did a little something through the agencies called Be More Live 19 or something. I can't remember, but it was a similar idea that just didn't have the spark to really take off. It was very transactional. It was very political, but there were some definitely definitive resources that were available, and so we try to bring some of them to the table. You got my wheels turning now, because like this is a good thing, and you guys being willing to like say like we don't have to have our hands on everything. We just want to facilitate your community people collaborating. Like that's really really a good vision.
Yeah, if there's I've tried to think of like what the metrics for success is that we're really aiming for, but if there's an organization that is doing youth after school programs and food distribution, and then there's another one right down the road doing the same things, like maybe one is doing an after school program really, really well, and the other is doing the food distribution really, really well. Like I think just effectiveness is really what we're kind of aiming for, is just to get people like let's bring some of our kids over from our organization to do your after school program. Let's, exchange some resources,
collaborate,
build relationships,
how to network.
Yeah.
So we got 5 minutes, y'all. I'll give you guys a last 5 minutes, but as you do this, understand that uh, God has given you a budget of time, right? So time is your most valuable currency. And when the Bible talks about your treasures in heaven, those are relationships that you've invested your currency in on earth, right? So when I see you guys in heaven, like, you guys are treasures to me because we're investing this time, right?
Yeah.
And so encourage that and keep that concept in place when you're hosting these events, is that the most valuable thing you're bringing to the table is your time, and investing your time into relationships, because those relationships is what's going to perpetuate the narrative of love to the people we serve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I love what you said about love too, because that really that's the main goal,
Yeah.
But it maybe I just want to open up the conversation. I mean, not now, but just encourage everybody watching that just talk about what is love. What does love mean? And it made me think of a verse. It is in the Bible. It says, but it says, "A loud blessing in the morning will be considered a curse." And so I think that kind of denotes some of the stuff we've been talking about. Is that you can come to somebody and say like, "Oh, I'm here to help and bless somebody," but they may not consider it a blessing. They may consider it a curse. And so, love, I think, is encompassed in consideration and much more aspects to love. But it's always good to think about.
That's a good opener for the event. Just ask people to write down their thoughts on that, and that's how you start having a conversation. Because if we can all have a common definition, then we can move forward in our mission, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got 3 minutes, man, but I appreciate your guys' time tonight. We're definitely going to have you back on after. We can talk about how it went down. Maybe even we can have a little town hall and have some of your connections you made, and you guys talk about what the next steps are, or just the next step is having another think tank.
Yeah.
But you guys have any last words you want to leave us with? And we definitely would love to have you guys back at your convenience. But any last words before we get out of here?
I just want to say thank you guys so much for the this opportunity. Like, it's been such a joy being able to talk with you guys, and I love seeing what you're doing. Just provide, and in a way, you guys are doing also somewhat a similar thing of wanting to provide a space for people to come and share things they're interested in. So I love that.
Absolutely. Again, like, we found our tribe. Like, we're speaking the same language. We're on the same energy link. Like, this is how it goes. And then, like, what I find with finding my tribe, like, the best part about it is I don't have to define a bunch of things. I use words, and you're like, I know exactly what that words mean. You're speaking my language. Like, this dialect is familiar to me, and I understand it. So when you're like, I don't know what the word is, I'm like, is it your privilege that we're talking about? And you're like, yep, that's it. Yep. I don't take any offense to it, because sometimes people take offense to that. And it's like, wait, I have privilege too. And I have to recognize that I can't come into a room throwing my privilege around, assuming everybody can do what I've done. And, if I did it, you can do it. No, stop saying stuff like that. Because
exactly.
It takes time. And I know we need to wrap up.
Yeah, I'm gonna get out of here. So we're gonna cut off so Robert can come on with his Robert report. You guys stay tuned in. And our guests will be back to tell us how the event went and what else is going on in Baltimore. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Love you.
Thank you so much. Nice meeting you.
See you guys.